Captain Trell stood motionless on the bridge of the Perseverance, his four arms hanging limply at his sides. The blue skin around his large eyes had darkened, a sign of deep sadness among his people. After 15 years commanding this light cruiser, the Galactic Union had labeled his beloved ship as obsolete. "You have 24 hours to clear all personal items," said Admiral Vorks, his hologram flickering slightly in the center of the bridge. "The Perseverance will be moved to Scrapyard Station 17 tomorrow." "With respect, Admiral," Trell said, keeping his voice steady, "this ship still has much to offer the fleet." The Admiral's 6 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture of dismissal. "The decision is final, Captain. The shield matrix design has proven too unstable, and the power regulation system cannot support modern weapons. Be grateful we're offering you command of the Unyielding." When the hologram disappeared, Trell turned to his first officer. "Begin evacuation procedures." The crew moved through the ship with heavy hearts. The Perseverance might have flaws, but she had been their home. By evening, the corridors echoed with emptiness, and Captain Trell made his final log entry before departing. 3 weeks later, the Perseverance drifted among hundreds of discarded vessels at Scrapyard Station 17. Dust gathered on its sensor arrays. Its once shining hull had dulled under the weak light of a distant sun. Occasionally, salvage teams removed useful parts, leaving gaping holes in their wake. The quiet of the scrapyard was broken by the arrival of a sleek transport ship. Unlike the standard oval designs of Union vessels, this ship had a more aggressive angular shape. It docked at the station's main hub, where station manager Grex waited with obvious impatience. "You're late," Grex said, his thin lips barely moving as he addressed the disembarking passengers. 6 humans walked down the ramp, each wearing the dark blue uniforms of the Galactic Union, with a small Earth flag on their shoulders. 5 males and 1 female, all standing much taller than Grex, who shifted uncomfortably under their direct gazes. "My apologies," said the woman, stepping forward. "I'm Commander Jane Wilson, Earth's representative to the Union fleet. We had some navigation issues. Your star charts aren't exactly compatible with our systems yet." Grex waved a small hand dismissively. "You humans are the newest members of the Union. You get 1 ship as your initial contribution. Most new species choose something from Dock 3. Those are the newer models being decommissioned." "We'd like to see everything," said a broad-shouldered man with streaks of gray in his dark hair. "I'm Marcus Reed, chief engineer for this mission." Grex clicked his teeth in annoyance. "As you wish, but I have other duties. My assistant will show you around." He gestured to a young member of his species who hurried forward. "I'm Drell," the assistant said cheerfully. "Welcome to the largest scrapyard in the quadrant." For hours, Drell guided the humans through the docks containing the newest decommissioned vessels. These ships gleamed with polished metals and advanced technology. Commander Wilson asked thoughtful questions about each one, while her team made careful notes. But Marcus seemed distracted, his eyes repeatedly drifting toward the distant field of older vessels. "What's out there?" he finally asked, pointing to the furthest section. Drell fluttered his hands nervously. "Just the oldest ships. Nothing worth seeing." "I'd like to see them anyway," Marcus insisted. Drell looked uncertain but led the group to the oldest section of the scrapyard. Here, ships from decades past floated in eerie silence. Some were little more than shells, stripped of anything useful. The group walked through this mechanical graveyard until Marcus suddenly stopped beside a cruiser that had once been elegant, but now showed the wear of neglect. Unlike many vessels around it, it remained largely intact. "This one," he said quietly. "What's its story?" Drell checked his datapad. "The Perseverance. Light cruiser, decommissioned 3 weeks ago. Design flaws in the shield matrix and power systems. Not worth your time." But Marcus had already climbed through an access port. Commander Wilson followed, then the rest of the team. Drell waited outside, muttering about the strange behavior of humans. Inside, Marcus moved with growing excitement through the empty corridors. When they reached the engine room, He ran his hands over the control panels, a smile spreading across his face. "Jane," he said, using the commander's first name in his enthusiasm, "do you see what I see?" Commander Wilson studied the systems carefully. "It's outdated, certainly. But the fundamentals are sound." Marcus finished for her. "The shield matrix isn't flawed. It's just designed for a different power configuration than they're trying to use. And look at these power conduits. They're arranged in a linear pattern." One of the other engineers, Lieutenant Ben Foster, nodded in understanding. "Our systems on Earth use distributed networks. We could completely redesign the power flow." "Exactly." Marcus slapped his hand against a bulkhead. "Everyone keeps trying to upgrade this ship based on their standard designs. But what if we approach it differently? What if we work with the ship's quirks instead of against them?" For the next 2 hours, the human team explored every corner of the Perseverance. They found numerous issues, but with each discovery, their excitement grew. While Union engineers saw only problems, the humans saw possibilities. When they finally emerged, Drell was surprised by their animated expressions. "We've made our decision," Commander Wilson announced. "We want the Perseverance." Back at the station hub, Grex couldn't hide his disbelief. "That ship, it's practically falling apart. The Union gave you the right to claim a vessel of reasonable quality. There are far better options." "The Perseverance meets our needs," Wilson replied firmly. "Its shield matrix is fundamentally flawed," Grex insisted. Marcus smiled. "Not flawed, just misunderstood." Grex's small eyes narrowed. "I must register a formal note of protest. When this ship fails in service, it will reflect poorly on humanity's judgment." "Noted," Commander Wilson said calmly. "Please process the transfer immediately." Later that day, as the human transport ship began towing the Perseverance away from the scrapyard, 2 Union officers watched from a nearby monitoring station. "Did they really choose that old wreck?" asked one in disbelief. "Humans," the other replied with a dismissive gesture. "They're new to space. They don't know any better. Captain Trull commanded that ship, didn't he? I heard he was heartbroken when it was decommissioned. Well, he'll probably be amused to learn it's now in the hands of humans. Let's see how long they last before they come crawling back for something that actually works." As the Perseverance disappeared into the darkness of space, neither officer noticed the determined smiles on the faces of the humans aboard the transport ship. The Union might see a worthless vessel, but the humans saw something else entirely. They saw potential. The Perseverance hung in Earth's orbital shipyard, surrounded by smaller human vessels that buzzed around it like bees. Inside, Marcus Reed stood in the engine room, his hands covered in grease, a wide smile on his face. For 6 weeks, the human crew had been working non-stop to bring their vision to life. "Hand me that plasma cutter," Marcus said to Lieutenant Ben Foster, who was hanging upside down from a maintenance harness. "Are you sure about this?" Ben asked, passing the tool. "We're cutting through the main power trunk. Union engineers say that's dangerous." Marcus chuckled. "Union engineers think in straight lines. We humans like to zigzag." Throughout the ship, 30 engineers worked in small teams. They had stripped out most of the original systems, leaving only the basic structure intact. The bridge was now a tangle of open panels and floating displays, with Commander Wilson at the center of it all. "Status report," she called out, looking up from her tablet. Lieutenant Emily, the communications officer, replied first. "New comm system is online. It's using the frequency jumping pattern Marcus designed." "Weapons?" Wilson asked. Lieutenant Tom Parker looked up from a large holo display showing the ship's exterior. "First modular bank is installed. We can swap weapons configurations in under 10 minutes now." Wilson nodded, pleased. "And our biggest problem?" "The shields," several voices answered at once. The shield matrix had been the Perseverance's greatest weakness. Union designs used a central generator that projected a uniform barrier around the ship. When it failed completely. "Marcus has a plan for that," Wilson said. He'll brief everyone at dinner. Later that evening, the human crew gathered in the mess hall. Marcus stood before a 3D model of the ship, his eyes bright with excitement. The Union uses centralized shield systems because they're efficient, he explained. But on Earth, we learned long ago that centralized systems have a critical weakness, one point of failure. He waved his hand, and the model changed to show several smaller nodes spread throughout the ship's hull. I'm proposing a distributed shield matrix. 26 small generators instead of one big one. Each covers only a portion of the ship. If one fails, the others compensate. Won't that use more power? Asked engineer Paula Davis, frowning. Yes, Marcus admitted, but that's where our second innovation comes in. The display changed again, showing the ship's power system. Instead of the straight power trunks that ran through Union vessels, the new design showed a web-like network. We're replacing the linear power distribution with a grid system. Multiple pathways for energy to travel. If one route is damaged, power automatically finds another way through. Commander Wilson stood up. The Union fleet will think we're crazy. But Earth ships have always been built differently than alien vessels. We don't have the luxury of standardized parts across hundreds of worlds. We had to be creative with what we had. What about weapons? Tom Parker asked. We're still outgunned by every modern ship in the fleet. Wilson smiled. That's where you come in, Lieutenant. Show them. Tom activated his own display. Union ships use fixed weapon systems optimized for specific targets. We're installing modular weapon mounts instead. We can switch from anti-fighter pulse cannons to capital ship railguns in minutes. We'll never have the most powerful weapons, but we'll always have the right ones. The room filled with excited conversation as the crew discussed possibilities. For the first time, many of them felt the Perseverance could become something special. 3 months later, a small delegation from the Galactic Union arrived to inspect the renovated vessel. Admiral Vorks, the same officer who had decommissioned the ship, led the group. His 6 eyes widened as he stepped onto the bridge. Gone were the traditional control stations arranged in a circle. Instead, the human design featured overlapping workspaces where crew members could easily see each other's displays. The lighting was dimmer than Union standard, with key systems highlighted in different colors. Interesting aesthetic choices, Vorks said, clearly uncomfortable with the changes. Commander Wilson stood proudly at the center. Form follows function, Admiral. Our bridge layout improves crew communication by 40%. Vorks moved through the ship with growing confusion. Nothing matched Union standards. Power conduits ran in seemingly random patterns. Shield generators were scattered throughout the hull. The weapon systems could be completely reconfigured. This is highly irregular, he finally said when the tour ended. You've ignored centuries of proven design principles. With respect, Admiral, Marcus replied, we've adapted the ship to human principles. Our history taught us different lessons than yours. Vorks's face tightened. The Perseverance was flawed before. Now it's unrecognizable. I cannot approve this for frontline service. We're not asking for frontline service, Commander Wilson said calmly. We only want to prove the ship's worth. After hours of debate, the Union delegation granted the Perseverance limited duty patrolling Sector 47, a quiet region far from major trade routes. It was clearly meant as a token assignment to satisfy the newcomers while keeping them out of the way. As the Union shuttle departed, Lieutenant Emma Lee joined Commander Wilson in the observation lounge. Border Patrol, Emma said with disappointment. That's where they send ships to be forgotten. Wilson smiled. That's where they send ships they don't understand. But sometimes, the quiet corners of space hide unexpected challenges. Do you really think we can prove them wrong? Emma asked. I know we can, Wilson replied. The Union builds ships like they build their society, standardized, efficient, and inflexible. But humans have always thrived in chaos. We adapt. On the day of departure, the crew took their positions on the bridge. The ship hummed with energy as systems came online. Each display showed green status indicators where Union engineers had once seen only problems. "All stations report ready, Commander," announced First Officer Jack Miller. Wilson settled into the command chair, feeling the ship come alive around her. "Helm, take us out." Standard departure pattern. As the Perseverance glided away from Earth, a message arrived from Union Fleet Command. The ship was assigned to patrol the outer reaches of Sector 47 for 6 months. The message ended with a note from Admiral Vorks. "Try not to break anything else while you're out there." Wilson smiled at the screen. "Navigation. Plot a course to Sector 47. Let's show the galaxy what a human ship can do." The Perseverance accelerated smoothly, its new engines purring with power. Behind it, Earth grew smaller, a blue jewel against the blackness of space. The ship that everyone had dismissed was about to begin its new life, not as the weakest vessel in the fleet, but as something the Union had never seen before. 3 months into their patrol of Sector 47, the crew of the Perseverance had settled into a routine. The sector was exactly as advertised: quiet, empty, and far from anything important. They monitored the occasional trading vessel and mapped uncharted asteroid fields, but found little to challenge their rebuilt ship. On the bridge, Commander Wilson reviewed the latest sensor logs with a frown. Another uneventful week. "Maybe that's a good thing," said First Officer Jack Miller, leaning against his console. "Gives us more time to fine-tune our systems." Wilson nodded, but her eyes revealed her disappointment. The Admiral was clever. He put us somewhere we can't fail, but we also can't prove ourselves. The calm of the bridge was suddenly broken by Lieutenant Emily's urgent voice. "Commander, emergency broadcast from Trading Post Kappa 9. They're under attack." Wilson straightened immediately. "Distance. 2 light hours from our position," replied Navigation Officer Mike Tanner. "Nearest Union patrol is 4 light hours away." "We're the closest ship," Wilson realized. "Helm, set course for Kappa 9, maximum speed. All hands to battle stations." The Perseverance turned sharply, its engines flaring blue as it accelerated to speeds its original designers never imagined possible. In engineering, Marcus and his team prepared for their first real test. "Rerouting power to engines," Marcus called out. "Shield configuration alpha ready." Throughout the ship, the crew moved with purpose. They had trained for this moment. But training was different from real combat. Many felt a mix of fear and excitement as the Perseverance raced toward danger. Lieutenant Tom Parker studied the tactical display. "Commander, we should be ready with a weapons configuration. What are we facing?" "Unknown," Wilson replied. "Comms, any more information from Kappa 9? Emma shook her head. "Just the initial distress call. 3 ships attacking the station." "Prepare weapons configuration C," Wilson ordered. "Balance defense and defense." 90 minutes later, the Perseverance dropped out of faster-than-light travel near Trading Post Kappa 9. The small station was still intact but showed signs of damage. 3 sleek, predatory-looking ships circled it like sharks, firing occasionally at its weakening shields. "Pirates," Jack Miller said grimly. "Black Star-class raiders. Fast and well-armed." Wilson nodded. "Open a channel." Emma worked her console. "Channel open, Commander. Attention, unidentified vessels. This is Commander Jane Wilson of the Galactic Union vessel Perseverance. Cease your attack and withdraw immediately." The largest pirate ship turned, finally noticing the newcomer. After a moment of silence, a harsh voice responded. "Well, well. The Union sent a single ship." The voice laughed. "And an outdated light cruiser at that. Our scanners show you're the old Perseverance. That ship's a joke." Wilson's expression remained calm. "This is your final warning." "No, this is yours," the pirate replied. "Leave now, or we'll destroy you before finishing with the station." Wilson cut the communication and turned to her crew. "Battle Plan Omega. They're expecting the old Perseverance. Let's show them the new one." The pirates, confident in their advantage, sent 2 ships to intercept the Union vessel while the third continued to attack the station. As they approached, their scanners showed them what they expected: an outdated cruiser with weak shields and inadequate weapons. What they couldn't see were the modifications. "They're powering weapons," reported Tom Parker. "Standard attack pattern. They'll try to flank us." "Let them think it's working," Wilson ordered. "Helm, act sluggish. Weapons, hold fire until my mark." The Perseverance moved clumsily, as if its systems were indeed outdated. The pirate ships closed in, their weapons charging. "Now!" Wilson shouted. The Perseverance suddenly came alive. It twisted with unexpected agility, bringing its weapons to bear on the nearest pirate ship. Pulse cannons fired in rapid sequence, targeting the pirates' engines with precision that surprised even the human crew. The first pirate ship veered off, trailing debris. The second fired a full barrage at the Perseverance's port side, where the shields on the old design were weakest. "Shield impact," called out Ben Foster from the engineering station. "Sectors 7 through 12 holding at 60%. "Redistributing power," Marcus reported. "Rerouting shield strength." Under the old design, such a hit would have collapsed the entire shield system. But the distributed matrix held, weakened but intact. "They're regrouping," Tom announced. 3 ships converging. "They look angry." Wilson smiled. "Good. Weapons, reconfigure to Pattern D engineering. Prepare for shield rotation sequence." The pirates attacked together this time, surrounding the Perseverance and firing from multiple angles. But the human ship danced between their salvos, its modular weapons switching targets faster than the pirates could adjust. One pirate ship exploded as railgun fire tore through its reactor. The second suffered critical damage to its navigation systems and spun helplessly away. The leader, seeing the unexpected turn of events, turned to flee. "They're running," Jack announced, surprised. "Not yet," Wilson said firmly. "They attacked a Union trading post. Helm, pursuit course. Weapons, disable their engines." The Perseverance surged forward, catching the fleeing pirate ship. Precisely targeted shots crippled its engines without destroying the vessel. "Union protocol says we should wait for reinforcements," Jack noted as they secured the disabled pirate ship. Wilson nodded. "And we will. But first, let's make sure the trading post is secure." As the Perseverance approached Kappa 9, a message arrived from the station manager. "Union vessel, we witnessed your battle." That was unexpected. The Perseverance has a reputation, but what we just saw... The manager paused. "Thank you. You saved many lives today." Within hours, a formal Union patrol arrived, led by a heavy cruiser. Its captain, a tall, reptilian officer named Dax, seemed surprised to find the situation already resolved. "You engaged 3 pirate vessels alone?" he asked Wilson as they met on Kappa 9's observation deck. "My ship and crew were capable," Wilson replied simply. Dax studied her. "The reports said the Perseverance was obsolete. Reports can be misleading." News of the battle spread quickly through Union channels. The Perseverance, once considered a joke, had defeated 3 modern pirate vessels without taking significant damage. More surprising was how it had done so, using tactics and technologies unlike anything in the standard Union playbook. At Union Fleet Headquarters, Admiral Vorks reviewed the battle recordings with growing astonishment. The ship moved differently, fought differently, and succeeded where it should have failed. "Send a message to the Perseverance," he finally ordered his aide. "Request a full report on their combat systems. And," he hesitated, "inform Captain Trull of these developments. He may wish to see what has become of his former command." Back on the Perseverance, the crew celebrated their victory. It wasn't just a win against pirates. It was validation of their approach, proof that human innovation could transform weakness into strength. "What happens now?" Emma asked as the senior officers gathered in the mess hall. Commander Wilson smiled. "Now, the real test begins. We've caught their attention. Let's see what they do with it. News of the Perseverance's victory over the pirates spread quickly through Galactic Union channels. Once dismissed as an outdated vessel crewed by inexperienced humans, the ship now became a topic of curious discussion. Union engineers requested detailed reports of its modifications, while military strategists studied recordings of the battle. 1 month after the pirate encounter, the Perseverance received 2 notable visitors. The first was Captain Trell, the ship's former commander, who arrived on a small transport vessel. Commander Wilson greeted him personally at the docking bay. "Captain Trell, welcome aboard. It's an honor to meet you." Trell's blue skin had regained some of its luster, but his 4 arms remained clasped tightly together, a sign of nervousness among his people. "Commander Wilson, I have heard interesting things about what you've done to my old ship. We'd be happy to show you," Wilson replied with a smile. "I think you'll find she's still the Perseverance at heart." As they walked through the corridors, Trell fell silent. The layout was familiar, yet everything had changed. Crew members moved with purpose. Systems hummed with energy. The ship felt alive in a way it never had under his command. In engineering, Marcus Reed greeted the former captain with enthusiasm. "Captain Trell, I've read all your maintenance logs. They were incredibly helpful in understanding the ship's quirks." Trell's large eyes widened. "You read my logs." Most Union engineers ignored them. "They were a gold mine of information," Marcus said. "You knew this ship better than anyone. You documented every power fluctuation, every shield variance. You just lacked the freedom to fix things your way." For the first time, Trell seemed to relax. "The Union believes in standardization. My suggestions for customized solutions were not welcomed." Marcus nodded. "That's where humans differ. We believe every problem has multiple solutions." The tour continued to the bridge, where the second visitor awaited. Admiral Vork stood stiffly, examining the modified command center with obvious discomfort. "Commander Wilson," he said formally, "your success against the pirates was unexpected." Wilson nodded. "Thank you, Admiral. I did not say it was impressive," Vorks clarified. "Merely unexpected. Your methods are unorthodox, unproven on a larger scale." "With respect," Wilson replied, "they've proven effective so far." The Admiral's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. "Perhaps that is why I am here. There is a situation developing that may require your ship's unique capabilities." Wilson exchanged glances with her officers. This was not the inspection they had expected. "What situation, sir?" she asked. "The Tarax," Captain Trell said before the Admiral could respond. "They've attacked 3 border outposts in the past week." Admiral Vorks shot Trell an annoyed look. "That information is classified, Captain." "The Tarax?" Wilson asked. "I'm not familiar with that species." The Admiral activated a holographic display showing a heavily armored species with rigid exoskeletons and 4 arms similar to Trell's, but thicker and stronger. "The Tarax were once part of the Union," Vorks explained. "They left a century ago, believing our peaceful policies made us weak. They have superior weapons technology, but fewer ships. Normally, they avoid direct conflict with Union forces. Until now," Trell added. Vorks nodded. "A radical faction called the Claw of Dominance has gained control of their military. They've launched simultaneous attacks across 3 sectors. Our standard response protocols have proven inadequate." Wilson understood what wasn't being said. "The Tarax know your tactics. They know exactly how Union ships will respond." "Yes," the Admiral admitted reluctantly. "Their latest attack threatens the Boros colony. It's a young settlement with minimal defenses. Our nearest battle group is engaged elsewhere." Wilson straightened. "You want the Perseverance to help defend Boros. I want to see if your innovations work against a real military force," Vorks corrected. "Consider it a field test." After the Admiral departed, the senior staff gathered in the conference room. Captain Trell had been invited to join them. The Tarax are formidable warriors, Trell explained. Their ships use crystalline armor that can absorb and redirect energy from standard Union weapons. That's why conventional tactics fail, Wilson realized. Trell nodded. Their attack pattern is always the same. They target shield generators first, then weapons, then engines. Union ships are designed with these systems in predictable locations. Marcus smiled slowly. But we don't have standard configurations. Exactly, Trell said, his eyes brightening. Your distributed systems might confuse them. But be warned, once they realize their standard approach isn't working, they'll adapt quickly. The Tarax respect strength above all else. 2 days later, the Perseverance arrived at Boros Colony. The small settlement sprawled across a fertile valley, home to 50,000 colonists from 12 different species. In orbit, 3 Tarax warships circled like predators. They've noticed us, reported Lieutenant Tom Parker from Tactical. They're breaking orbit to intercept. Lieutenant Emma Lee studied her communications display. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Audio only. Let's hear it, Wilson ordered. A harsh, clicking voice filled the bridge. Union vessel, you face the claw of dominance. Your weak shields and outdated weapons are no match for Tarax might. Surrender now, and your crew will be spared. Wilson nodded to Emma, who opened a return channel. This is Commander Wilson of the Perseverance. The colony is under Union protection. Withdraw immediately. Laughter came over the channel. The Union sends 1 light cruiser. And the Perseverance at that. We know this vessel. It is famous for its weakness. The transmission ended abruptly as the 3 Tarax ships accelerated toward them, weapons charging. They're scanning us, Tom reported. Standard Union tactical scan. Wilson smiled. Let them see what they expect to see. Engineering. Mask our modifications. Show them the old Perseverance. Aye, Commander, Marcus replied. Adjusting power signatures now. Wilson turned to her crew. They think they know what we are. That's our advantage. Tactical. Prepare for pattern Omega. Helm. Evasive sequence on my mark. The 3 Tarax ships spread out, moving to surround the seemingly outmatched cruiser. Their first volley targeted exactly where a standard Union shield generator would be located, but the Perseverance was no longer standard. The shots passed through empty space as the human ship suddenly accelerated in an unexpected direction. Its distributed shields flared but held, and its weapons returned fire from angles the Tarax hadn't anticipated. Direct hits on the lead ship, Tom reported with excitement. Their port weapons array is damaged. They're adjusting. First Officer Jack Miller warned. New attack pattern forming. Wilson nodded. So are we. Marcus, reconfigure shields to pattern Delta. Weapons, switch to configuration B. As the battle unfolded, the Tarax found themselves facing a puzzle they couldn't solve. When they targeted shield generators, they found none. When they expected the ship to retreat, it advanced. When they adapted to one weapon's configuration, the Perseverance switched to another. Captain Trell, given a seat at the back of the bridge, watched with growing amazement. Remarkable, he whispered. Simply remarkable. The battle above Boros Colony raged for 3 hours. The 3 Tarax warships, initially confident in their superiority, found themselves increasingly frustrated by the Perseverance's unpredictable tactics and adaptive systems. They're targeting our port side again, reported Lieutenant Tom Parker, his fingers dancing across the tactical display. Same pattern as before. Commander Wilson nodded. They're running out of ideas. Helm, roll ship, engineering, power to starboard shields. The Perseverance rotated gracefully, presenting its reinforced shields to the incoming fire. The Tarax weapons, designed to overwhelm standard Union defenses, struggled to penetrate the distributed shield matrix. Their lead ship is pulling back. First Officer Jack Miller observed. Looks like they're regrouping. Wilson turned to Captain Trell, who had remained quietly watching from the rear of the bridge. Captain, you fought the Terrax before. What are they likely to do next? Trell's large eyes blinked thoughtfully. The Terrax respect strength. When conventional tactics fail, they typically resort to a direct assault, concentrating all firepower on what they perceive as the enemy's command center. The bridge, Wilson concluded. Trell nodded. In Union ships, the bridge is always in the same location. They'll target that area with everything they have. Wilson smiled. Perfect. Let's give them what they expect. She turned to her crew. Tactical, prepare all weapons. Engineering, I want a controlled power fluctuation in the bridge section shield. Make it look like we're weakening. Marcus Reed's voice came over the comm system. Understood, Commander. Creating the illusion of shield failure now. The Perseverance maneuvered to present its bridge section to the Terrax ships. As predicted, all three enemy vessels moved into a tight formation, their weapons charging for a massive combined strike. They've taken the bait, Jack reported. All enemy weapons powering up. Hold position, Wilson ordered calmly. Wait for it. The Terrax ships fired simultaneously, a devastating barrage aimed directly at the Perseverance's bridge. At the last possible moment, Wilson gave the order. Now, execute Maneuver Echo. The Perseverance suddenly dropped, the enemy fire passing harmlessly overhead. At the same instant, panels along the ship's hull slid open, revealing weapons that had been hidden from the Terrax scanners. Fire everything, Wilson commanded. The human ship unleashed its full arsenal. Railguns, pulse cannons, and missile batteries all fired at once in a perfectly coordinated attack. The Terrax ships, having committed to their all-or-nothing strike, had left themselves exposed. Two Terrax vessels suffered critical damage, their engines failing as emergency systems activated. The lead ship took the worst hit, its weapons disabled and hull breached in multiple sections. Enemy ships are powering down, Tom reported, his voice filled with disbelief. They're surrendering. A stunned silence fell over the bridge, broken only by Captain Trell's soft words. In 30 years of service, I have never seen Terrax warriors surrender. The communication system activated, and a harsh, clicking voice spoke. Union vessel Perseverance. Your tactics are unknown to us. Your ship fights like no other in the Union fleet. There was a pause. We acknowledge your victory. Wilson exchanged glances with her officers before responding. Your acknowledgement is accepted. Prepare to be boarded for prisoner transfer. After securing the Terrax commanders and arranging for Union reinforcements to take custody of the captured vessels, the crew of the Perseverance gathered in the mess hall to celebrate. The mood was jubilant but tinged with disbelief. 3 Terrax warships, Engineer Ben Foster said, shaking his head. No one's going to believe this. They'll have to, Marcus replied, raising his cup. It's all in the combat logs. Captain Trell, invited to join the celebration, approached Commander Wilson. I must thank you, he said formally. Wilson looked surprised. For what, Captain? For showing me what the Perseverance could truly become. Trell's blue skin brightened with emotion. When the Union took my ship away, I believed her story was over. You humans wrote a new chapter. 2 weeks later, the Perseverance docked at Union Fleet Headquarters. A formal reception awaited, attended by high-ranking officers from throughout the fleet. Admiral Vork stood at the front, his expression unreadable as Commander Wilson led her crew down the gangway. Commander Wilson, the Admiral began stiffly. The Galactic Union Council has reviewed your actions at Boros Colony. Defeating 3 Terrax warships with a single light cruiser is unprecedented. Wilson stood at attention. My crew deserves all the credit, Admiral. Perhaps, Vorks conceded, but it was human innovation that made it possible. He seemed to struggle with his next words. The Council has authorized a new program. We want to apply your modifications to other vessels in the fleet. Murmurs spread through the gathered officers. This was not what anyone had expected. Furthermore, Vorks continued, Captain Trell has requested command of a ship modified with your distributed systems. The Council has approved this request. Trell stepped forward, now wearing a freshly pressed uniform. With your permission, Commander, I would like Engineer Reed to oversee the modifications to my new vessel. Marcus looked stunned. Me? But I'm not a Union engineer. Precisely, Trell replied. We need someone who thinks differently. Admiral Vorks cleared his throat. Which brings me to our final announcement. Commander Wilson, you are hereby promoted to the rank of captain. The Perseverance will become the flagship of a new tactical development division. Your mission will be to train other crews in your methods and continue refining your innovations. Wilson blinked in surprise. Admiral. The Taraks have withdrawn from Union space, Vorks explained. Their commanders reported facing a vessel unlike any they had encountered before. They believed it represented a new direction for the entire fleet. His six eyes fixed on Wilson. We have decided to make their assumption a reality. 6 months later, a small fleet assembled near Earth. 5 ships, each formerly considered obsolete, now upgraded with human design systems. At their center floated the Perseverance, no longer bearing the scars of its former neglect. Its hull gleamed with new armor, and its engines pulsed with steady power. On its bridge, Captain Wilson surveyed the tactical display. Each ship in the formation was commanded by an officer who had observed or studied the Perseverance's success. Captain Trell's vessel, the renamed Innovation, held position to starboard. All ships report ready, Captain, announced Lieutenant Emma Lee from Communications. Wilson nodded. Signal the fleet. Operation New Perspective begins now. As the small fleet moved in perfect formation, Wilson reflected on their journey. The Perseverance had begun as a discarded vessel, deemed too weak to serve. Now it led a revolution in Union ship design and tactics. First Officer Jack Miller joined her at the viewport. Quite a change from Sector 47, he observed. Change is what humans do best, Wilson replied with a smile. We take what exists and imagine what could be. Beyond the viewport, stars streaked past as the fleet accelerated to faster-than-light speed. The ship once considered the weakest in the fleet now led the way forward, proving that sometimes the greatest strength comes not from power, but from seeing potential where others see only flaws.